Welcome back. We've changed up where we're sitting for this, our second hour on Good Morning Trinidad and Tobago. We're talking with Nikoli Edwards, the UE Guild Secretary, and it's TT Youth for the Commonwealth, TT Youth for the Commonwealth Youth Council. It's an election that's coming up later down this month in Malta. Good morning, Nikoli. Welcome to the set of GMTT.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
For some of you who don't know, Nikoli is also a media practitioner as well. So this is where the guy who's usually accustomed to doing the interview gets to switch roles, and he's now the interviewee. Nikoli, let's talk about the Commonwealth Youth Council.
Mm-hmm.
You have intentions of going up for one of the positions on that council. Give us an idea what the Commonwealth Youth Council is all about first before we move forward.
All right. As you would know, the Commonwealth serves 53 countries across the world. The Commonwealth Youth Council, it was set up in essence to more or less represent youths across the world. 1.2 billion youths to be exact. Because the youths make up 60% of the Commonwealth.
Right.
So the Commonwealth Youth Council, just as the Guild of Students at UE or other representative bodies, would advocate on behalf of the youths, would be that voice to more or less say these things need to be enacted, policies need to be changed, youths are not getting enough attention or recognition. So that is the purpose of the Commonwealth Youth Council. This would be the second executive. It started in 2013 at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting when it took place that year. So this is the second time that they're hosting elections. So the position that I'm going up for is Vice Chairperson, Policy and Advocacy. So my role would really and truly be to be that person to look at policies, look at ways that governments could reform policies to represent students better and advocate on their behalf.
Let's look at the motivation. How did you come about wanting to be part of the Commonwealth Youth Council?
In 2009, when CHOGM was hosted here in Trinidad and Tobago, I attended the Commonwealth Youth Forum. That time I had to apply, and I was one of 50 persons to actually make it to the entire experience. So really and truly that piqued my interest in terms of advocacy, in terms of representing students. Fast forward into June 2015, I attended the Commonwealth Youth Forum in the Bahamas as part of the 19th Commonwealth Conference of Education Ministers. So that opened up my eyes. More or less the dust was swept off because of the distance in between there. So it awoke in me or reignited a spark to more or less continue that type of work. At the moment, I'm the secretary of the UE St. Augustine Guild of Students. So representation has always been there. When I went to the Bahamas, I learned of the Commonwealth Youth Council and that elections would be hosted later this year. So at that moment, I just looked out for an email saying when nominations were open, and I went straight into it. Met all the criteria, and now I'm standing as a candidate. One of 6 actually vying for that position.
6 from the Caribbean or 6 from across the Commonwealth?
I think only 1 is from the Caribbean, and I think that's from Guyana. The rest spread out across the world.
All right, let's look back at the process for nomination to notification when you're successful. How has that process been? Because from my research, I think they put out something online,
yes,
or they send you an email that says, how long did that process actually take?
That process, well, it would have been in June, so about July is when they opened the call for nominations. And I was asked to get a letter of attestation, then from the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development, a professional recommendation, an endorsement. That time I got it from the Guild President, as well as I had to put together a manifesto and a script about myself. I sent that to them, to the elections committee, and it was a waiting game. And you all know how that could be. So you're sitting down there in limbo wondering, okay, should I start to make preparations to travel? What should I do? Who should I talk to? And then one day I got the email saying that I had qualified as a candidate. So at that point, it was now to start to call on my contacts, my networks, and find out, all right, so we're going for this now. I need your support from this country and that country, because it's 1 vote per country. So all the networks that I would have acquired at the Bahamas, I had to pull on that, make new friends and stuff, because it's really a position that a lot of people would like to go after because of the role that it has. And I'll be bringing my communications and media skills to that role because that is one of the requirements.
Okay, that said, you recently graduated from the
Yes.
University of the West Indies as well, so you have something you're bringing to the table.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, your communication and media skills in that. But how has your campaign been going so far? As in terms of how do you connect with people from across the 53 countries? Is it a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls? Of course, everybody's on WhatsApp and that sort of thing now. So how has that been going?
Well, actually, so yes, emails definitely was my first platform to get my message out there, to send across my manifesto. I did up a flyer. I did a video as well. It was supposed to be a 3-minute video expressing the things that I intend to do. So I posted that on YouTube. It's shared on the Commonwealth Youth Council's page. So you all can look at it online. Just search Nikoli Edwards, Commonwealth Youth Council representative candidate, and you would see it coming up. And WhatsApp. I had the tedious process of going on Facebook and looking for each candidate because they would have sent out a list of all the qualifying candidates. So I had to sit down one afternoon and go on Facebook and search everyone's name and send them a message asking them for their number. And then I opened up a WhatsApp group. So a lot of people are actually benefiting from this WhatsApp group because we're sharing ideas. Persons are experiencing problems in terms of visas, in terms of funding and all of these. So it's really a resource for us to share ideas, tackle issues from the onset. We're not even elected as yet, and we're already dealing with issues affecting young persons.
That said, the current president of the guild, if I'm not, or chair of the guild, let me just be sure, the current chairperson is from Nigeria.
Yes.
So what happens? Is it that you only have one term as chair, or can the persons who are the current executive go back, seek re-election?
I think actually one person who is on the current executive is seeking re-election. So I think it's possible, but one of the things that must be noted, it alternates. So each year, each time there's an election year, it would go to a different region. Just as you see with the Commonwealth Secretariat, the Commonwealth Secretary General, that changes from region. The same thing applies to this position. So this last year, it would have been from the African continent. And this year, I believe it's the Asian or something to that effect. But it changes, alternates every election.
So there are about 2, 4, 6, 8 or 9 positions that are chairperson, vice chairperson, inclusion and engagement, partnerships and resources, and vice chair, policy and advocacy.
Yes.
And that's the one that you're actually going for.
Yes.
Why policy and advocacy? Why choose that particular one?
Because I really and truly believe from the standpoint of persons needing better representation in terms of a voice, that is where I really believe my strengths are. When I was in the Bahamas, for instance, I was selected as the Constitution chairperson because we were looking at revising the Commonwealth Students Association's constitution. So those present, they had faith in me, and I think that I did a good enough job to show that policy changes at that level was necessary. I executed that process and was successful. At the Guild of Students in St. Augustine here at UWI, I have always been one to advocate. Earlier this year, I led a protest against the withholding of our grades. So that was something successful. And even in Trinidad, one of the things that I really want to work on is reform of the criminal justice system. This was sparked from the incident that happened earlier this year with my father and whatnot. And I really and truly saw my calling in that instance, where we can't sit down in this country anymore and just allow things to take place as is. If we have a voice, use it. If we have our limbs, get up and go and get. So our criminal justice system is something that needs reform in this country. So I believe that being in this position, it would help bolster my efforts in this regard and other similar things where advocacy is needed.
Well, that would have brought me to my next question, and it's interesting that you brought up the issue with your dad, and you talk about advocating for the reform of the criminal justice system. Have you started that process? And the question then would be asked, why not start here to get that more experience before moving on to the Commonwealth Youth Council?
Sure. Well, I actually have started that process. I started something called Justice for TT, and it really and truly is supposed to be a resource where you can get information on different cases that would have come up, because every day, more or less, you see persons entering the criminal justice system for years in remand without having a trial date, without ever facing a jury, without facing a judge. And this really and truly is disheartening. So I met with Professor Ramesh Deosaran, who is a lead criminologist in the country, and he would have shared with me some of his work. I would have looked online, different studies that took place in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of criminals and the criminal justice system. So I've started the work. I've started it down here. There are a number of young persons who are also on board with me, and they believe in the cause, because it's not just simply for my father or for me, but there are a number of people out there. I remember reading recently a person was held on a gun charge. He was sitting on the step outside of a house, and the police stormed the house and they found a gun. And because he was outside, they arrested him. And he was in jail for 6 years without a trial date or anything. And when he finally faced the court, they found him to be innocent. So things like that, it really and truly affects my psyche, at least, to understand that there are people out there who have to suffer as a result of injustices. Now, there are people who I would assume are guilty, but there are also people who are innocent. And what we need is a speedier justice system where we could really and truly tackle these issues as they come.
You started your group advocating what's it? Justice for TNT. How many persons are there with you in this group right now?
Well, I think there are about 50 persons who have liaised with and who are on board, and then it's just a matter of getting persons to come forth and share their stories. So I started at UE. A number of persons who were interested, they actually reached out to me and told me whatever assistance I need. And I guess hearing the story of earlier this year, persons naturally reached out to me and offered assistance. They said, whatever you need, just know that we're here. So that really and truly was the shoulder that I needed at that point in time, because rather than simply crying or expressing it in a particular way, I decided to make something positive out of it, something that I could look back and say, you know what, this was the change that I wanted to see and that I effected, because it's affecting Trinidad and Tobago as a country, right? And if this is what I could do in my small space, this is what I intend to move forward with it. So that's just the attitude that I have towards the situation.
It's interesting. Let me ask you, how have you been coping since that incident that happened? How are you and the family coping with that?
Well, it has definitely brought the family together. We are speaking on a regular with my family abroad and whatnot. Everyone is always checking in. Weird thing is that a number of times I would go out, be it socially or what have you, and a lot of strangers would come up to me and express sympathy, empathy, and whatnot. And at first it was something very bizarre, because it's like, I don't know you, but you're coming and hugging me and expressing empathy. So that is something that I had to get accustomed to. I've met persons I've never seen in my life before who said that they knew my father and that he was a good person, this, that, and the other. So that was really and truly comforting. As far as coping, I don't know if I could really cry the way that persons expect you to, because I've just been trying to keep it in together, trying to continue, push forward, be there for my family and stuff. So really and truly, I haven't taken that moment and broken down, as I said. For me, it's just about turning that into something positive.
But it took a lot from you to actually apologize to the victims, the police officer Maynard, and his family following that prison break. It took a lot out of you to that.
Because my apology will never bring back their son, their family member. It can never do that. But I just wanted them to know that really and truly, on behalf of my father, on behalf of the persons involved in that incident, at least I can stand forward or step up and really and truly say, you know what, this person didn't deserve it. The police officer, he didn't deserve it whatsoever. My father, according to reports and stuff, was not the one who pulled the trigger. But it still does not excuse him from that entire situation. So I just wanted them to know that, you know what, we are grieving as well. We understand the situation from a different standpoint, but we've all lost in the situation. So it makes no sense pointing fingers, or it makes no sense being negative about it. Let's just try to pick up ourselves and move forward as best as we can.
Nikoli, we kind of digressed a bit from our initial discussion. But in our final minute or so, the Commonwealth Youth Council General Assembly in Malta, you're getting support from persons outside, but what about locals here? Do locals here have a chance or have a voice in your nomination or election to the post that you're going for, Vice Chair of Policy and Advocacy?
Well, it's interesting that each country, there is one vote per country. Trinidad and Tobago at this moment does not have a youth ambassador to the Commonwealth, which is worrying for me. It simply is a matter of we don't have a national youth council representing us whatsoever. We have the Trinidad Youth Council and I believe the Tobago Youth Council, but neither of them are officially recognized as the youth council. So we have no persons going up to vote for this. So I'm not even getting a vote from my own country. This is something that I spoke to the ministers about in different ministries. I spoke to the permanent secretary up to recently in foreign and CARICOM affairs. Even support in terms of financial aid, because I had to beg literally for money, funding to go to Malta because I need to get just my ticket funding. Graciously, the University of the West Indies has always been a strong support for me. So the Faculty of Humanities and Education, Faculty of Social Sciences, and the Guild of Students would have contributed to my ticket. I haven't received all the money for that. Ministries aren't able to fund me, so they say, because of constraints, because of different instances. So it really worries me as a young person in Trinidad and Tobago to think that someone who wants to go out for a leadership position, someone who wants to represent the country, isn't able to access the kind of support necessary for this. So this is something as well that I want to start advocating for. Just as we have the Children's Life Fund or something, we can have a fund for persons, young persons who want to go to conferences, who want to go to contest elections on different boards and different institutions. Why can't we receive that? In this country, we talk a lot about youth policies and legislation and stuff, but we're not really seeing tangible results. So young persons in this country, yes, we have free education, yes, we have certain opportunities, but we could do a lot better. If you look at the ranking in terms of the world, Trinidad and Tobago isn't that high when it comes to taking care of young persons, assisting them with the leadership position. So that's something that I really and truly want to go behind and put a strong voice behind.
Okay, thank you very much, Nikoli Edwards. We've been chatting with Nikoli Edwards. He is TT Youth for the Commonwealth Youth Council. He's going up for the position of Vice Chairperson, Policy and Advocacy when CHOGM is held in Malta later this month. Thank you very much, Nicholas. Best of luck in the future.
Thank you.